You guys up for a toga party?
Toga! Toga!
The Franklin Society hired me to recreate a scene from the movie Animal House. Because the Franklins have been happy with my previous work, the Triple Xmas promo from Season 3, Episode 17, they hired me to both shoot and edit the next promo video, one for a toga party. They wanted to shoot a scene from the 1978 classic National Lampoon's Animal House, but as if it happened at Whittier College, and I was happy to do it. Fun fact, if you remember Season 2, Episodes 1 and 3, this was the second example of foreshadowing from the John Belushi monologue from Animal House that I had performed as a senior in high school, and I was very happy that I was already familiar with the film. Anyway, they were excited that I had my own camera to make an even better promo than last time. Although to be honest, Professor Cheatham let me borrow his camera again, the Canon 5D Mark III, because it was better than mine. But on March 13th, I got to go to the Franklin House, which was an apartment in Uptown Whittier that year, and I got to meet all of the Franklin active body to shoot this altered version of Animal House. So it was a step in the right direction to becoming someone that could get into their parties and grow closer to them. While I was there, I was officially introduced to Ricardo Petones, who I had Spanish 356 with and who would be the pledge master for 2014, and therefore was in charge of who would join the society. So he'd play an important role in my time at college. I also got to meet Dave Garland, a retired mathematics professor from Whittier College known lovingly as Dr. Dave, who was the Franklin Society faculty advisor while he'd worked at the college back in the 1980s, but he'd continued to show up and keep the Franklins aware of their history and on the right path even after retiring. I believe that his dedication to the society is one of the main things that's kept it consistent and on track over the decades. He was happy to play the strict university headmaster in that scene, even though he was anything but that in real life.
Guys, we're in trouble. I just checked with the Palmer House and they said that we got every answer wrong on the culinary exam.
Every one? They gave us the wrong answers?
Oh god, look what just creeped in.
Well, looks like somebody forgot the rule about alcoholic beverages for a society on probation.
What a tool.
What did you say?
I said, what a shame it is for...
Oh, can it, or you'll be out of here like shit through a goose.
Yes, sir.
You guys looked at your GPA?
Oh, I have. I know they're a bit low right now.
A bit low? They're the lowest ever in the history of Whittier College.
Our midterms should help out.
Yeah, laugh now. You guys have been on double secret probation since the beginning of the semester.
Double secret probation?
Yeah, and that means if you make one more mistake, you are out of here. I'm expelling you all.
By then, I already knew I wanted to be part of this group. These were the type of people I wanted to be around and become more like while I was in college. And after seeing that 3 freshmen, all from my floor of the freshman dorm Stafford, had been part of the spring 2013 pledge class and were successfully members of the group, I was sold. However, I was unsure if I would be able to become one myself because I don't drink alcohol. I just hoped that my willingness to help them in their events would show my dedication to becoming one of them.
That was nice of him to stop by, don't you think?
Even if I wouldn't be the usual pledge or active. Luckily, I learned that unlike most Greek fraternities, you can pledge for the Franklin Society even if you're sober. I exported the final version of the promo video on March 25th after getting great feedback on it, and I was glad to have made something the Franklins were happy with and thought was cool. At that point, the promo released and the anticipation began. It was 5 days until Animal House, an eventful 5 days, and the official announcement read, "The Franklin Society is excited to introduce Animal House, a toga-themed dance. In the past, toga parties were a traditional house party of the Franklin Society, and now we want to bring it back as a dance open to the entire student body. This is the first time the Crystal Marquee is opening their doors for a Whittier College dance, and the venue itself is beautiful and includes an elegant cash bar for people 21 plus. Valid state ID required. This event is sponsored by the ASWC Senate. Whittier College reserves the right to request that individuals exit the event if students or guests are deemed intoxicated, under the influence, or being disruptive." It was now March 27th, only 3 days until Animal House, and Backpack-to-Briefcase returned with careers in advocacy and activism, featuring 2 people who Skyped in, Erik Stegman, the manager of the Half in 10 campaign at the Center for American Progress.
The other thing, building off of that I thought was absolutely critical when I was at Whittier, that I still use to this day, is really this cross-pollination that goes on at the school I was really amazed at how much I could, work with a history professor, a sociology professor, any number of different professors or students on different projects.
And Andrea Shorter, the chief executive political coach and consultant for Atlas Leadership Strategies.
Be very clear as much as you possibly can on what your values are. Why do you want to do what you want to do? Some things we do because it feels good, it sounds good, it seems like the right thing to do. But every day when you are taking on the responsibilities, the adventures and challenges of being an advocate or an activist, your values are going to be challenged.
The in-person speakers were Angel Rodriguez, a children's services advocator for LA County Department of Children and Family Services, who was also an adjunct professor at Whittier College.
How to understand why and how they came to be in the situation in which they find themselves. And it's not always maybe what you might think. It's not just about drugs or violence or any of those things. There are a lot of underlying issues that are fueling that situation in their lives. And so without a real true understanding of what happened to find out what their story is, then you're not going to really resolve the issues that brought them there, and then you'll see them come back again and again to the system. It's a tough system to get out of.
And Kimberly Ramirez, the programs coordinator for the Wall Las Memorias project.
My boss always tells us that we're agents of change. So there is that fight in you to want to advocate for someone and wanting to be that person. And it's very important that you realize, like one of them mentioned, what their morals is, what their values are, and that you truly believe that and that you want to be part of that movement.
The majority of these career paths hadn't previously been on my radar, so this was a very interesting talk, with some real gems of wisdom in there. That same day, a filmmaker friend asked me to go to a sound studio called Skywalker Sound with him while they mastered his movie's audio. But I couldn't take that much time off from school. He legitimately asked me to drop out and go anyway, but I didn't. As of 2025, that's been my only opportunity to go to Skywalker Sound, so sometimes I wish I had, but I think I made the right choice. Most people have a high school relationship or a first love that doesn't work out. It's part of growing up for the vast majority of us. But that first real breakup with someone you deeply care about can hit very hard. And I officially had mine on March 28th, 2013, only 2 days before Animal House. Luckily, my roommate was away that night. I'd gotten back from watching a movie with friends, and I knew this conversation was coming. We ended up talking on Skype for about 3 hours, and we started off trying to act normal for a while, as though it was during one of the good times. But then the tone started to change, and there were a lot of tears. It was long and drawn out. There were times where we smiled and laughed through the tears about the good moments, but the time had come, and we couldn't deny it anymore. The distance and lack of having an end in sight had just been too difficult for us to keep up. Our relationship had progressed to a very unhealthy point, and although at the time I swore we would have stayed together if we'd been in the same country, we stopped communicating that night. We canceled our plans to attend her sister's wedding in Hawaii and ended things as amicably as we could, but it was still difficult. I wouldn't hear from her again until she invited me to a funeral of someone we both knew, but I'll get to that in a later episode. But since I was only 18 years old, the first thing I did after getting off the Skype call was I updated my Facebook status. I posted 1 year, 8 months, and 4 days. It was the amount of time we'd been together, my longest relationship at the time. Even as all the film work got better and better, I was still figuring out how to cope with this sadness. I had loved the Greek myth that Zeus, fearing the power of people, had split them in half, leaving them searching for their other half, looking to be whole again. But that was where life and legend had split ways, because we hadn't become the whole human Zeus feared. We'd become even more isolated halves, afraid of trying again because we feared experiencing that kind of pain a second time. It was now March 29th, only 1 day before Animal House, but the FBI was on campus that morning. Campo had done room inspections in the freshman dorm Stafford, and they found castor beans in a room on the 3rd floor. I won't say which student it was, but they suspected this student of buying these beans with intent to concoct a poison called ricin. But there were some flaws in their logic. Castor beans grow naturally in Turnbull Canyon, and they look very similar to normal beans, so it would be both very easy to get a hold of them without any dark web purchases, and easy to pick them up without knowing what they were. Castor oil is also used in a lot of beauty products, so they're actually a lot more common than you'd expect. Here's where it gets weird though. The college expelled this student, but from my understanding, he wasn't charged with any crime. The news wrote all sorts of articles about it and gave us more details than the school ever did, and campus was abuzz with conversations about what had happened. So of course, some of that made it into the advertising for the Toga party. One more day, better have those togas ready. Freaky Friday into sexy Saturday. Oh, and by the way, the Popo and FBI you heard about just wanted an excuse to get turnt. Ha! Mysterious substance? More like Toga party! There was a lot going on around that time. And that night, there was another party called Back to the 80s, also known as 80s Pop, hosted by the Palmers and Orthogonians at the Masonic Lodge in Uptown Whittier. All the Palmers were wearing white shirts they'd cut the collar off of, there were balloons with long silver ribbons floating on the ceiling, and the attendees were encouraged to wear 80s attire. I took the school-provided bus to the event, and that was the first time I'd danced with anyone since being officially single, and the idea that I'd feel guilty was gone, like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I could look at people, talk to people, flirt with people, dance with people, and not worry about what I'd do or how I'd act differently if I was single. I hadn't realized just how heavily that pressure had weighed on me until it was gone. But there was also a big split going on in my heart and mind at that point. I knew that I'd developed feelings for at least 2 different women over the course of my first year at Whittier College, and obviously I hadn't acted on those feelings, but even though I was single now, I also knew that trying to jump into another relationship would have been a great way for that to end really quickly. I needed time for myself to recover emotionally, to feel free, and to do what I wanted to do before settling down again. Although I did want to take my next relationship seriously, eventually. Fun fact too, I distracted myself later that night by reading about how the Lakota Grandmothers Project, part of the Lakota Solidarity Project, whose goal was to mobilize international support to end genocide and return to natural Lakota law, had joined Occupy Wall Street in New York City. For those who don't know, Occupy Wall Street felt like a very different movement in the 2010s than in the 2020s. But anyway, I shared a link to an article about it on Facebook because I thought it was important that more people knew about it. With only 6,000 to 8,000 Lakota people left that spoke the language due to the killings and forced boarding schools that prevented students from speaking their first language, in some ways I felt obligated to raise awareness about it. But it was now March 30th, and time for Animal House.
You know what we gotta do? Toga party.
A group of us all got together and helped each other make and put on our togas, including Amy Lee, Natalie, June, Liz, and I, and we took photos together before we left for the party. We took the bus the school had chartered to Crystal Marquee in Uptown Whittier, and when we arrived, we were very impressed overall. There was a great dance floor space, a large Franklin Society banner in the front, just under a giant crystal chandelier, and a full hard liquor bar for people 21 and up. Any Franklins that walked by me dapped me up or high-fived me as they walked past, and I felt like I was making the right decisions and reaping the rewards for the work I'd put in. At the time, it was probably the largest live event I'd ever been associated with. And that night, I did something that I don't think I'd had the confidence to do at any time previous in my life. I walked, or more like danced, up to a group of attractive women and started dancing with one of them. She didn't say a word, and neither did I. We just danced. I never found out who that woman was, and I have no idea if she knew who I was. Friends had told me that this was the most effective way to dance with people, but I'd never believed it and felt either too shy or too worried about rejection to try. Part of me even felt a little creepy, but in my experience, my chances of being rejected ended up being way higher if I asked a person, hey, do you want to dance with me? However, if you just go up and start dancing near someone or while making eye contact with them, there's a decent chance they'll start dancing back. To be honest, this totally conflicted with my natural instincts, but it was too overwhelmingly successful to deny its effectiveness. I can't recommend that anyone else do that because there's definitely a potential to come off creepy, but I also can't say it wasn't more successful than trying to yell in someone's ear over the music to ask if they wanted to dance. So I'm not advocating that anybody do this or try this, I'm just saying my experience was unexpected. But the party wound down around 1 a.m. and I walked to the after party at the Franklin house, and they even let me bring friends, so everyone was very happy. The lesson I learned that night doubled down on what I'd learned from making the XXXmas promo, and that was to provide a service for groups you want to become a part of. Put in the work and show that it's something you care about. This had been mutually beneficial too, because that promo video got over 1,000 views, so more people around campus knew that I was a filmmaker than ever before. But you'll have to tune in next week to hear about the craziest April Fool's Day of my life.
Well, we got news for you, pal. They're gonna nail us no matter what we do. So we might as well have a good time. Toga, 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 toga. You guys up for a toga party?
Toga! Toga!